So, what to eat and what not to eat during the apocalyptic times, which more and more people finally realize are just around the corner. So, the prophecies make it clear that food will be scarce, but this should not trick you into thinking that, well, obviously, what am I gonna eat? Anything I can get hold of. Although that sounds like the general solution in starvation situations, this will not be a starvation of an ordinary type. And that's why I decided to make this video on advanced knowledge of fueling our bodies, mainly because Alexander Paramonov recently spoke about the importance of understanding these things in depth. And as usual, he was just reviving the ancient wisdom. Like in the East, for example, the yogis, they didn't even eat much. When they reach higher levels, they would feed directly with pranayama, what Alexander Paramonov in modern language described as sustaining one's body, getting energy direct from the ether. So, you may see a car on the road, but just by looking at it, you cannot say, does the person drive it on petrol and thus gradually trashes the environment around, or you may not know, he may drive it on solar or even on water. There are many models actually which have been demonstrated many times of cars running on water. These are relatively much cleaner technologies, especially the models on water, because with solar we have this problem that the industries and the parts, when they are recycled, they also create lots of pollution. So solar is so clean. Water is definitely clean technology. But also, very few people are aware that there are also engines which use very advanced magnetic Tesla-style technologies, or the star batteries technologies, about which I spoke a couple of years ago, and those are really clean. Such energies will appear practically magical and surreal to people who have not delved into studying this subject. So such type of ignorant people, even if they see such a car on magnetic engine, they will not recognize it, and they will live in their imaginary world implanted in their head by the TV, that such things simply don't exist. And if you speak with them, they will say, this is not possible, I have never seen that. And this analogy with the different types of fuel for cars is the perfect for different types of food, because most people nowadays eat tamasic food. And even if they have personally met a person whose eating habits absolutely defy the modern penguinian fairy tales on nutrition, still the junk food person, he will continue saying, no, I have never seen that, it is not possible. He will continue eating only tamasic food, and he will naturally gravitate towards people who are also on such diet, which in its turn will further cement his belief that this is the only way things can go, because you see, all people around, they eat the same. Such people don't even have the capacity to grasp that everybody they know eats the same, just because their belief has led them into that circle, into that sphere. During the imperial time of Russia, when the Masons were growing their young roots, they outlawed being vegetarian over there by the fear of death punishment in a horrible way, which hints that earlier than that, when Russia and the Slavic lands were still Vedic, being vegetarian was way more popular, or possibly was even the norm. The Western world, I believe in USA, at some point they outlawed talking and recommending a raw diet, because there was a movement, people were starting to eat only raw vegetables and fruits, and they would become like glowing and very healthy. So at the time when that started gaining popularity, they had to outlaw it to drag people to the lower modes of initially eating meat, and at this point, I would say mostly serving garbage in the name of meat, because we know for more than a decade that they officially announced that they have this technology of producing artificial meat from sewage, because that is so near the composition of meat, they say, and it's very environmentally friendly. They say so. Guess what is in all this sausages and minced meat, basically anything that is not fillet. No wonder that my cats sometimes don't eat such so-called meat, even when they are hungry. I guess they smell what is actually inside. So, in the series of the different holistic cure, I would recommend you to see the entire playlist. We covered that this motto that you are what you eat is simply wrong in general. It is maybe 20% true, because food is not the most important factor. It is maybe like about 20% true. Food is only 20% of all the factors which determine in what mode will your body function. But 20% is not that little. It is not something that we should skip. And when explaining this mode of functioning, Alexander Paramonov, he put a stress on the lack of this understanding that when we put food, fuel into our body, we tend to think about the chemical composition, which is not the most important thing. The most important is that we swallow the consciousness of what we eat. To some extent, we can say that when we swallow somebody, that is more correct, because the plants, they also have their souls, they are also forms of life. We kind of acquire some of its consciousness. So the main thing is how the food affects our consciousness. Those who read nutrition labels still, they are not only far away from the truth, far away from the essence, far away from the main thing of what is going on when we accept food in our body, but on the top of that, in the holistic cure series, I explained why they are far away from the right knowledge of nutrition. But on the top of that, now in the apocalyptic times, they will get into dangerous situation believing the penguinian nutrition fantasies, which are a dangerous hoax, very dangerous, because people who believe in nutrition, and some also believe in survival nutrition, they go into even excessive meat eating because of that, some of them. This type of people, they're in even greater danger to turn to cannibalism when food becomes scarce. While those who have this advanced understanding of the real nutrition, of the divine, of the pure sattva nutrition, just because of their kind and polite heart and mind frame, they will go into a very advanced and high sattvic mode of nutrition. And even without doing those advanced yogic practices, it will be exactly as in the prophecies. They will drink a bit of water and they will be healthy. And those who believe that I need meat to be strong, they will go into sickness and cannibalism. This came up in a good number of prophecies. It was formulated in different ways, but at the end it boiled down to the same thing. For example, some of the prophets would say the people of God, they would eat only a little bit dirt and they would stay healthy, while the followers of Dajjal, they will feel even more hunger, and even after becoming cannibals, still there will be no satisfaction. They will be perpetually hungry and very, very sick. So this entire modern nutrition thing is a very dangerous hoax. First of all, it's an obvious hoax because people who don't get their recommended daily values for whatever, they usually don't suffer from all the terrible sicknesses the alleged malnutrition should be causing. But this entire belief in the modern nutrition fantasies, usually labeled even as alternative, which makes them even more appealing, this has turned into such a religious fanatism that actually when food becomes scarce, some people will be getting sick and malnourished just because in their fanatic belief that, you see, now I'm eating less and I don't get my recommended daily values. And actually their belief in that will make them physically sick, not to mention that they will be getting the mark of the beast as well to get their nutrition. So a lot has been spoken about this long-awaited evolution of the human species during the apocalyptic times. But not everybody understands that it will be an evolution for not very many people, only those who remain true to the angelic side, those who do not accept the mark of the beast, while the followers of the Dajjal, they will experience very fast devolution, and they will be getting very bloodthirsty, and they will be also preaching to each other and to everybody that meat is needed, especially in these difficult times. We'll need it to survive. What's the point if we die? While the followers of the light, they will experience really a different mode of functioning of the human body when one doesn't need much of external food. And this is not a phenomena which only the yogis experience, also the proper Christian monks, when they reach a higher level in their practice, it boils down to the same thing: long fasting. The saintly Prepodobnata Stoina, about which I spoke in the episode with the Bulgarian prophecies, she also explained that this is kind of a mystic power, as it is called in India, the ability to go on without food. So she had it as well. That's why during her entire life she would basically eat a few morsels a day. So after they tricked the people into believing the fraudulent history from the schools and tricked them into believing in their monkey origin, of course without any shame, based on those lies, they even recommend healthy, so-called healthy foods now by using trendy terms like Paleo diet, which I actually regret recommending in previous videos, at least some varieties of it. When I found out that some people actually use the concept of paleo diet to go into excessive meat eating, about which we should be particularly careful in these apocalyptic times, because by swallowing meat we increase the amount of tamas in our body, and the problem with that is that our decisions will be also tamasic. Actually, I first recommend seeing this entire video on the 3 gunas before seeing the end of this video. But back to the paleo diet fraud. As usual, there is some truth in it, and the truth is that yes, there were bloodthirsty tribes in the past, as they are now as well, but that is only a fraction of the population that there used to be on Earth. They completely ignored the other nations which were educated by the gods, who had the sciences, including the nutritional sciences as they were given by the gods, and all these cultivated plants which are demonized by some people who try to go into some sort of diet they think it's ancient, It's as much ancient as it is modern, because the less developed tribes, they are still on such diet. No need to go in the past, you can see it even now. But what these people don't know about, because they believe the penguins, is that these special plants for us, as well even the cooking recipes, they were all given by the original angelic engineers of this world. And there is plenty of proof of this. The best is probably the Vedic nutritional science, which is part of the sciences related to Ayurveda, and that is most definitely out of earthly science. As we have covered in the survivors, there is no way that all these, by the way, very efficient medical preparations could have been discovered by the trial and error method. It is absolutely out of question. And even some penguins figured out that not only the Vedic ancient recipes, but also from other parts of the world, they could not have been possibly just discovered, they were given by the angels to us. And the ancient nutritional sciences, they are simply part of it. And that's why the Vedic nutrition is the best that you can go for. To put it in very simple words, if you really want to know the Paleo diet as it was given by the lords to us, just see what is the Indian kitchen even now, the Indian traditional kitchen, because that's the place where it is best preserved. It is most definitely vegetarian. It is very rich in spices and many other points which are useful. I think the most important of them, you will find them in the series of the different holistic cure. That is the true paleo diet, and not the diet of some outcast tribes.
Да воскреснет Бог, и расточатся врази Его, и добежат от лица Его ненавидящие Его, яко исчезает дым, да исчезнут, яко тает воск от лица огня, так и да погибнут беси от лица любящих Бога и знаменующихся крестом.
Some people who put their trust mostly in survival books hope that hunting wild game will get them through the starvation period. There will be a short possibility for this, but only for experienced hunters who already know the area. And it's exactly like this in the prophecies. In the very beginning, when the famine starts, first people will, as they say, grab the wild beasts. But it is out of question that this will be a long-term solution, because, again, the hunters who know the area and the habits of the local wild game, they will finish off things rather quickly in the very beginning. What you may read in such survival books, that it is very easy to trap small rodents, that's more an idealistic picture from the movies, like Robinson Crusoe or somebody on an abandoned island where everything is peaceful and abundant. The wild game is, first of all, not an easy catch, and second of all, if it was that easy to catch any meat running out there in the forest, those animals wouldn't come regularly to the villages to search for food. And here locally, actually, the jackals, their behavior is already changing. They are coming nearer and nearer to the village. Before I could hear their cries many years ago, I remember here far away. Now they are very near. They just come right, probably even in my garden. And I hear more and more that they are shamelessly kidnapping chicken in broad daylight. So, a number of prophecies have warned us that the non-vegetarians will have more problems during the end times. I don't know if this refers only for people who eat meat from the shop, but the other option will be negligibly small. And the shop meat is very dangerous because all the chemical modifications that they make for animals, they are readily accepted by our bodies as well, and they modify the people, the psyche, the body much more efficiently. And also saints from all religions, from all around the world, the high-level ones, they tend to be vegetarians. Even Vyacheslav was almost a vegetarian himself. Very rarely he would eat a very thin chicken soup. So to be on the safe side, it's better to become a vegetarian now because the events are not so far away in the future as some people expect. In Australia, the army is already sending people to camp. It's enough to be a contact of a camper to become a camper yourself. So get sure you have a backpack and essentials, because in these camps it may not be very pleasant, and probably they will start doing that when it is very cold, to make it additionally hard to go to the wilderness. And I've been getting messages from all around the world since some time that they're burning the forests, and people were suggesting, are they doing it to such an extent so that we can't go and hide there? To be honest, in the beginning I thought this is a bit far-fetched because there is so much forest, but the amount of these messages and descriptions of how they are putting the forests on fire, I don't know. It is possible that they are putting them on fire so that people don't have place to hide, because in some places they have managed to actually destroy almost all forest in the country. Get sure you have plenty of CBD drops or paste in that pack, because CBD keeps you warm from inside. It is probably the best heating for the situation. And I know many people are wondering, but why camping so early? In the prophecies, it was towards the very end that they sent the servants of the Jal to arrest the good people. Yes, it seems to be early, but first of all, there could be a change in scenario, or this could be just for some areas, and you never know when it's gonna start in your area, because this with the camping is not much announced in the main news, and God knows in how many. I know at least of 2 countries that it is already happening. God knows actually in how many it is happening in reality, but there is nobody to report. There is some chance that now that they thought they have set up the trap perfectly and they are keeping under control everything very well. There is a chance that the Lord will disturb their evil plans with lots of natural disasters, and they, after that, they won't be able to maintain this system of sending people to camping and etc. But it may not be so. There could be a change in the theater placed scenario. It could come in waves. It could come and go in waves, or we could actually be in some very favorable timeline, and we could be already in the tribulation, although from the biblical description we are not yet there. It is still too good to be tribulation, but if we have been good and we are in a better timeline, maybe it is already tribulation, and we will escape with relatively very little trouble. And I want to wind up the topic of the food during end times before continuing with the update on the current situation, with this most important point that yes, food is important, but the most important factor which will determine in which mode your body functions, and again, usually it is a mixture. You don't really find pure sattvic or pure tamasic people. And the turning key of the switch, which determines in what mode will your body function, how much you can go without food, for example, that will depend on the amount of sattva in your body, is your belief system. For example, Alexander Paramonov, he did not use the Indian terms, but he gave such an example, like with the abnormal pineal gland of the sex perverts, how even their body changes when their understanding of everything has become crooked. And then he said, if somehow they uh, go to the right path and understand for what purpose has God given them particular parts in their body and how to use them to live like a normal person, if they go to that understanding, gradually the size of their pineal gland also will return to normal, and they will stop also perverting everything else in life, because such perverts, that they get this type of personality as well, not just one thing. And at this point, you should also get free from all addictions. Don't delay anymore anything. I mean, please see the video on coffee, on green tea. Even if such minor things bear as little as 2% importance in the overall formula of how much sattva, rajas, and tamas you have in your body, in what mode will you function, we live in such dangerous times. The road is so slippery that sometimes, because you're so dizzy, sometimes you may get dizzy and slip even when the road is not so bad, and fall in the abyss, because we are now all walking on the edge of the abyss. Even one beer may get you slightly dizzy, and you can fall. And I notice the people with addictions around me. Like, for example, I asked one of them who says he's preparing, he's not gonna get marked, he says he's determined. And I asked him, why do you still smoke? He's a heavy smoker. Well, he says this is minor, and at least I will wait for the time when there will be no tobacco anyway, and then the withdrawal will be easier, because now if I start quitting now, I will be always tormented. Maybe I go and buy tobacco, and later on it will be very easy, so I keep that for later, he says. But in reality, the smoking is taking away lots of his energy and time and finances, which he could use. He could invest in preparing. And all these people with addictions, they all have their excuses. Some still even say that alcohol is good for health, and they will absolutely refuse to look at the evidence that this is actually a lie, parasitic lie to trap the people. No, they will never look into the evidence. Instead, if you try to talk to such people, they will attack you personally. Either they will start insulting the person who is actually trying to help them, or they will just say, are you trying to tell me what to do? Mind your own business. Or if they are more refined, they may even perceive it as, oh, you are putting too much limitations on me. Limitations are not good, because sattva and purity, that is freedom. All limitations are tyranny. They will find all kinds of reasons to stay in tamas. But I mean, so what? Angels in heaven, which are in pure sattva, do they say, oh, we are so confined here, we cannot do crime, we cannot do violence, we cannot do murder, we are so confined? Actually, for them, there are such possibilities open, their very type of bodies. We can't even imagine the pleasure, the fun, the arts, and the way they create with their thoughts. We can't even imagine that. What because we are so limited, we can't even perceive it, what to speak of going there and doing it. But this is the thing, that people in tamas, they have lots of pre-learned excuses. That's from TV or from people who watch TV. They have a very wide choice of excuses that they have for all their addictions and bad habits and ignorance. And they even don't understand that they're brainwashed, because most of the people nowadays believe in these things, and it has become like kind of axiomatic truth, although it is actually a lie.
Яко исчезает дым, да исчезнут, яко тает воск от лица огня, так да погибнут беси от лица любящих Бога.
So what's happening around the world? Let's start with Russia. They announced that there will be this pass RQ code system with the phones to enter basically anywhere, any public building or any shop, without an exception. or maybe any building at all. Somehow they announced that. Then they said it's we'll need to the system is not yet ready, and now we don't know when. It was supposed to work already, then they delayed it and now postponed it, and who knows if it will ever start. But I mean, it's obvious where everything is going. Australia is even more interesting. They switched off internet and now they're sending people to camp. In Austria, they put on lockdown, uh, almost absolute lockdown, all unfixed people. And then after massive protests, by the way, the protests everywhere are way underreported. They are entertaining the minds of the people in the mass media with other stuff, like homosexual rights and that type of things. So after the massive protests in Austria, they announced actually the lockdown is for everybody. What a nice way to stop protests. And then they announced that, what is it, starting from 1st of February or something, even tests will be no longer taken and it will be a pass for everything, yeah, so that people can prepare. And Austria was the first country in Europe to announce that fixation will be mandatory. So about all these protests, not only they are underreported, but amongst the genuine crowd there are lots of agents who vandalize shops and do violence. And it's already going in the direction as of the prophecies that they will have such agents, and at the end, the people who do not have the mark will be prosecuted as terrorists. Now they are preparing the public that you see, they are the ones who vandalize and they are the ones who infect the public, and it's all because of them. Isn't it obvious? Well, Utrok Vyacheslav told us long ago the transition period when the marking will be compulsory and with promotions. That period will be very, very short. From so many sources, they organize what is it, lotteries, tombola, and now even here the local shop which requires passes, here only big shops require passes, that they're even offering vouchers for 10 euro or something for people with pass. So this period will be very short, and then exactly as Vyacheslav said, the two types of people will be separated completely. It will be impossible for the unmarked people to remain in the other society. Like if you mix vinegar and oil for some dressing or something, you will shake it, it will be a homogeneous substance for some time. That's how it is now in this world. But the time is coming when when you leave the liquid still, it separates these two types of people. They will no longer be able to mix. It will be impossible. So as far as Austria, people will be trapped there probably sooner than other places. Eventually it will come to all locations. But if you happen to be in Austria and if you are trapped in a city or something, and you have not been marked or tested, or you do not have any certificate, you can contact me on this email. So there are people who are allergic to lots of chemicals and all kinds of injections, and they have been they have even a long history of such intolerances. And recently I heard about the case of a lady who went to her personal doctor to ask him what will be her situation when the passes become mandatory and tests are no longer accepted. What should she do, because she has intolerances to all of these chemicals, and she was told, oh, don't you worry, you're so safe, when we put the thing in you, you will be provided with the best emergency room. Exactly, for people like you, we have purchased the most modern medical equipment for reanimation and bringing people back to life. So in conclusion, everything starts to unfold very, very fast, and it will unfold even faster. in the months and years to come. And of course, your luck will depend on your previous karma, but the amount of sattva is the only thing which can help you to improve even your karma. And certainly, becoming a vegetarian will not solve all your problems, but we have been promised difficult times ahead. And it could be so difficult that in the worst moments you would dream why it's not at least a bit more bearable. Well, now we are at the threshold, you still can do something which will surely at least make the things a bit easier, if not much easier. So be vegetarian, try to even avoid any shop food whatsoever, and stay away from cell phones and computers. Use cell phones only if it is absolutely necessary. Always use a holder, don't touch them direct. Under no circumstances carry such thing in your pocket. Keep it isolated. And recently I started using the computer from very far away actually. It's like 1.5, 2 meters distance from me. And that makes a bit of positive difference as well. Anyway, I use it very sparingly. But these are the things which will be actually helping us.